Hello?
Yes, I can hear you, but still your camera's not working.
Yeah, something. But did I end the meeting for all?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I'm the host. Alright, so I guess we can give some time. We still have 5 minutes left, right?
Yes.
Like people join. So Naimul, is there any host from Daffodil University who is gonna join?
Um,
Or
I'm not sure about that. Yeah.
we just have to be we just have to contact by ourselves, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can wait for some time and see that if there is enough participant, I think then we can start.
Okay.
Is Doris going to come, or should we just?
Oh no, I mean, I asked her to come, but the problem is she has a class in the early morning, so
Yeah.
she can't stay up late.
It's
No, I
pretty
could have requested her, but she would have listened. But I mean, I thought, it wouldn't be fair. Yeah,
we can manage it anyway.
yeah,
Hey,
we can manage
I
it.
think sorry, I've started sharing my screen, but I think you're going to present first, right?
Yeah, I can do that first.
For some reason, Fahd bhai, your voice is little, what should I say,
Yeah,
is that clear.
Is it broken? Is it better now?
not broken. I mean, the
But
volume is little bit, yeah, down. Yeah.
yeah, maybe speakers and
Is it better now? Oh,
still no.
let's see.
Maybe in the output volume we can do something.
What about now? Is it better?
Yeah, it's getting better
Yeah, I think
actually.
it's better. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
Yeah,
just
it's
get to
better.
automatically adjust microphone volume. So I guess it's fine
perfect.
now, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fine.
nice. Is Fokulba is gonna join or he's not gonna join?
I think he joined and then. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
he's
I'm
there.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. What's the time in Denmark right now, Fokulba?
I think it's 6 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah,
6
it's
a.m.
6 a.m. early morning. Yeah.
Wow.
That's funny. Where I am, it's right now 12 a.m. in the morning, and I think Nazmul is 11 p.m.,
11
right?
a.m. So the
11,
time.
yeah.
11
Mine is
p.m.
11, mine is 12 a.m.
Yours is 12. Yeah, so we're technically same time zone right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
Where are
in
you
Florida
right
right
now?
now.
Oh,
In
you're in Florida?
Gainesville. I
Uh,
came here for a job interview to University of Florida at the Diabetes Institute, UFDI. So
all
that's why
right.
we're in the same time zone.
All right. Yeah. Best of luck.
Yeah,
Or-
that went pretty well. Today was the second. There are 2 days interview. One was the presentation. Second day was chalk talk.
Uh-huh.
So
All
it's
right.
So today
How
was
was it?
they had meetings and with faculty, but also like today was something called chalk talk, where you have like a whiteboard and markers, and they tell you to like talk about what your plan is for your first grant. Basically, how are you going to submit it now?
for Fahd by like you don't have to ask like how was it. You have to ask like how much they offered. That's what you have to ask.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I'll tell you guys about it later.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I
you
think we can
you
start
couldn't
now. We're gonna wait for a couple of minutes, or
I think
I think there's
how many people?
let's
there's
wait. I think
13
for
13
about 3 more minutes.
participants. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
16, right? 16 participant, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Apart
excluding
from
us,
us,
it's I think
excluding.
12, yeah, right now.
But
I
yeah,
think
it's
let's give them
already
3 more minutes. Wait five
yeah.
minutes over
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hour,
It's
then we can.
yeah.
And they're all like
I mean,
undergrad, right?
yeah,
There.
yeah. They should be undergrad from computer science and I mean, yeah, CSC from CSC department.
Oh,
Nice.
okay.
All
Particularly
smart
from
Yeah.
people, huh?
CSE. Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Today I took a course on machine learning, and
Yes.
I mean in US I was going to I was going to wait for some time for the students, for everyone to come. Then the professor was like, "No, we don't wait here in US. You just start, I mean, right away." But the problem that I had is when I started, when there wasn't student enough, when they started coming, I had to repeat the same thing again.
Yeah.
So I
Oh.
mean, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's I like the way they're, I mean, really
The content.
punctual.
Mm,
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least the professor, yeah.
nice.
So one more minute, then we can start. And I think later we can get some feedback from the student, like when they want, to join in this type of seminar. I
Yeah.
don't think, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it would be
It's
better for them to do it in the weekend,
yeah.
maybe during the noon or maybe at night.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, we need a lot
What
of
time is
feedbacks
it in?
actually. Huh?
Yeah, what time is it in
It's
Bangladesh right now?
it's
It's
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Yeah.
That's not bad, actually. Only
Yeah,
40
10
that's
a,
thing is,
10
yeah,
a.m. on
but
Friday.
yeah,
yeah,
Fridays.
that's
10 a.m.
noisy.
on Friday, yeah.
People have
But
classes,
what I
probably.
know that about the students in Bangladesh, and I think with a lot of Gen Z students right
Mm,
now, they usually stay up late. I mean, they
got it.
study, I mean, at night, and they wanna take the morning, I mean, easy.
Got it. Got it.
So I think we have more than 15 participant. I think we can start.
Yes.
Perfect.
Should we start?
Do you want to record it, Nazmul, or?
Yeah, I think the
Uh,
recording is in progress. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
it's in progress,
Yeah.
right? You're sure about it?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
there is
it's recording
Oh yeah,
now.
recording
yeah,
on
yeah.
this computer.
Hmm.
Okay,
And
perfect.
what
So
about your camera? You couldn't fix the camera?
I don't know, like something is going wrong. Like, I tried to like, join
Did you
again, but
try did you try changing this camera from here?
Changing the camera from here, what do you mean?
So can you see my screen?
I can.
So if you, click here, you'd be able to select camera. I think by
Click where?
default oh, my zoom is not showing here.
No, yeah. How can you show your zoom? You can show your screen, right?
Yeah. So anyway, next to the camera, there is an option to select the camera.
I think maybe try and like log in from your phone camera,
Or
perhaps.
hit Alt plus N. Hit Alt plus N.
Okay. Now all plus N, like,
Should
it's
change the camera.
now it's not working. So all plus N is to switch actually, right?
Yeah, switch camera, yeah.
Fail to start the video camera. Please select another video camera in settings.
I think there is a problem with your webcam.
Yeah, something is going on. But anyways, like, I will try to like, fix that. Like, but like, we shouldn't
All
like
right.
waste any time. Just like continue.
All right. Thank you everyone for waiting. Good morning, everyone, and greetings from Alfred University in New York. My name is Naimul Haque. Currently, I'm working as a research assistant at Inamori School of Engineering at Alfred University. It's really it's pleasure to be here in this online session, webinar session, where we'll be discussing about a really important topic that is really close to many of our heart, which is higher studies abroad. And thank you, Daffodil University, especially the Computer and Programming Club for hosting this session, and also Gradmate.ai for sponsoring this webinar. So in this webinar, we have four main parts. So in the first part, I'll start by giving you an overview of the global higher education opportunities, and I will focus on the key factors such as duration, structure of your graduate programs, funding opportunities, scholarship, research environment, and mentorship culture, and post-graduation pathways such as work permit or permanent residence option, something like that. And in the main part, or the main talk, will be conducted by Dr. Mirza Mohammad Fahd Kabir, and there will be a really short session to introduce to you guys a tools which is called Gradmate.ai. So it will help you through your admission journey. So we'll take just a few minutes to introduce the tools from that platform. And finally, we'll have a Q&A session where you guys can ask any question related to admission. So before I dive into, I should introduce our keynote speaker more elaborately. So it's an honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Mirza Mohammad Fahd Kabir, a PhD graduate in molecular cell and development biology from the University of Miami. Dr. Fahd Kabir is a development biologist with over a decade of research experience in pancreas biology and more than 5 years experience in computational and system biology. His current research focuses on applying machine learning models to understand the sex-based differences in endocrine cell regulation and disease biology. So thank you, Dr. Kabir, for joining us.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
And now I'll go straight into the first session where I'll be talking about the global higher education opportunities. So I'll talk about the key factors you should consider before choosing one of the three popular destinations for higher studies: US, Europe, and Australia. So before I go, I talk about that the global higher education opportunities. I want to just talk about little about this news. The most of the students are currently worried about. It's about the new H-1B rule, and what it means for international students. So I know that some of the students, they're thinking like, there is new rule with H-1B visa, and the US companies will not be hiring you guys as an international student. So I want to say that the international student with F1 visa, they will not be affected by this new rule. So this specific rule is targeted for the H-1B lottery process. It's not targeted for the student visa holders. And it doesn't apply for anyone who's already in US and they want to transfer their F1 visa to H-1B. So there will be no effect on those type of students. So if you come to US and if you get a job and your company wants to, sponsor you, there's not going to be any problem. If so, who are going to be affected by this new rule? The people who are working in a tech company outside the US and they want to come to US directly with an H-1B visa, their employer has to pay this $1,000 fee, annual fee. So if you are planning to, cancel the plan to study abroad, I don't think you should. I think, in fact, you have much more prospect if you come here, because they're not gonna hire employee directly from India to US. So you have much more job opportunity here in US. So anyway, let me use this table to briefly explain which region you should choose for your higher studies. So we have US, Europe, and Australia as the candidate. We have here pros and cons to summarize the whole opportunities. So anyway, first in US, if you want to do a PhD, usually the tuition is waived, and you'll get a stipend monthly for your living. So it's really common for any PhD candidate to get their tuition waived and get a stipend monthly. In US, the research is usually flexible, which means that if you start your PhD with a certain topic and if you are working on it, and if you see that the world is going one way and your research is going the other way, you can just talk to your PI or your advisor, and you can change your research. So you have research flexibility in US. In US, after you finish your PhD or after you finish your master's, you have a really good prospect for your career. Like you can go into a really big tech company like Google, Microsoft. So you have a lot of post PhD pathways after you finish your higher studies in US. The challenges in US are the PhD usually takes longer, like 5 to 7 years. There is a lot of competition in US because the students from all over the world is trying to get into US. They have longer application process. Usually in US, you get funding in the fall semester. So if you miss that semester, you have to wait for another year to apply. So which means that the application process is a bit longer. In Europe, however, it takes 3 to 4 years to finish your PhD. The tuition is low, and it's only research based. So you don't have to study. In US, for PhD, you have to study for 2 years, but you don't have to do that in Europe. But the problem is there is not much funding, which means that it's harder to get into a fully funded position. You need a proposal. which means that before you start your research, there should be a complete structure of how you're going to conduct your research. So you need a proposal before you start your PhD. There could be a language barrier in Europe, because if you go in Germany, they usually use their own language for day-to-day life. In Australia, there is no language barrier because everyone speaks English. It's similar to Europe, where it takes 3 to 4 years to complete your PhD. There are a lot of government funded positions, PhD positions, and it's fairly easier to get PR in Australia. They take fewer students, which means it's going to be competitive. The scholarship they're going to hand out to the students, it's going to be really competitive. You need to contact your supervisor before you get an offer, and you need a proposal, same as in Europe. You also need a research proposal before you start your PhD. So which country or which region is best for you? If you want to choose one of them, you should first ask this question: what is your academic strength? What are your career goals? Do you prefer structure or independence? Can you write a strong research proposal? How important cost is to you, and also the duration and post-study work. So if you can answer all these questions, you can choose one of the three regions for study. And I think I missed Canada, but I should have, included Canada here. Canada should be more like in between US and Europe. So I think I'm done with the first session for this webinar. I think I'll invite Dr. Fahd to carry on with the rest of the presentation. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect. Let me just share my screen. Right. You guys can see the screen presentation mode, right?
Yes.
Yes, bye.
All right, perfect. All right, so first of all, thank you, Nazmul and Daffodil University, for inviting us to come and give us a talk. I think Nazmul very elegantly already introduced like what I do. I just want to give a small sort of brief introduction that, all of us are basically we all applied from the subcontinent and now we're here. I'm from Pakistan, and of course, Naimul and Dr. Nazmul is from Bangladesh, right? So we all went through the process of sitting down and identifying what is the pathway to, get into graduate school in the United States. So I went to the University of Miami for PhD in molecular cell and developmental biology, with an emphasis on computational biology and systems biology, right? So I'm trained as a biologist, but I started working on computer sciences and like computer models that allow for biostatistical analysis of large genomic data sets. And Dr. Nazmul, for example, also went to university in Southern Illinois University, SIU, where he also did PhD in, I guess, neuroscience, if I'm not mistaken, Nazmul, right?
Yes, pharmacology and neuroscience, to be specific.
Pharmacology and neuroscience. Yes, he's a
Yeah.
neuroscientist. He knows a lot
Mhm.
about the brain, which is probably the most complex, right? So, the goal of actually giving these presentations to different universities about, in our part of the world is really to try and share some of our knowledge. Because we've actually already achieved what it is that we hope to achieve by going through a pathway that really nobody was there to help us or to tell us that, these are the things that you should have done, or, we should have made our lives more simpler, more efficient, and we would have probably had more options, honestly, in terms of applying. So, I think it's important for students that are, beginning their journey right now or sitting down and thinking, hey, how do I begin this process? What is it that I should be focusing on? Just how do I start? Because sometimes finding a mentor is difficult, and there are plenty of people, in our part of the world who want to sit and mentor you, but themselves have actually never actually been to any foreign institution, right? So we wanted to give you a realistic overview of what your expectations should be. So me and Dr. Nazmul are currently both postdoctoral fellows. So I also wanted to say that I came to the US on a Fulbright fellowship. So my PhD was fully funded. And right now I'm a NIH funded K99R00 fellow. So I'm funded by the NIH as well in this lab that I work in at Tulane University. So um, I want to just add that this presentation very nicely, very kindly made by Dr. Nazmul. I'm actually in the process of traveling, so I'm actually using his slide deck. He was very kind to share it with me. But I think it's a very elegant and very nicely put together presentation, which really is a very good resource to anybody who wants to, go through the process of applying and coming over here to the US. Guys, just let me know if I'm like running low on time, right? So I'll accelerate. Okay, so it's important, like I think Naimul touched upon this, is making the decision which country you're going to apply to. Like every country has its pros and cons. So really there's no good answer as to, what countries should be good. I would say, making a blind decision about applying everywhere and then just getting in somewhere, that's not a good approach. I think it's important to sit down, even on a piece of paper or on an Excel sheet. You guys are computer scientists, so you love equations and tables and organization in general, right? So make an Excel sheet, or make a simple file in which you can put the pros and cons of different countries and why you think that would be a good fit for you or not, right? And then once you've identified a group of countries that you think would be a good fit for you to apply to for a number of reasons, then go ahead and try to find, focus on different research programs that align with what you have studied or what will kind of enrich what your field of study is. So of course, if you're a computer scientist and you have expertise in computer science, and you have, like for example, a bachelor's or a master's in computer science, so that is something that you have spent, invested time in, you'd be able to have a educated conversation with a professor over here. But on the other hand, if you did a master's in computer science, for example, and you want to go and talk to a physics professor, then that conversation could be challenging. It at the end of the day, you have to realize you're talking to a human being, right? So you need to form some sort of connection that is important, or to try and establish um, or answer a very key question. What is it that you bring to the table? Because in the United States, or in a lot of other countries, in Europe or in Australia, for example, relationships are transactional. And what I mean by that is you have to think about what is the value that you bring to the table. Because think about it, people are going to be investing in you. They're going to be paying your salary. They're going to be paying to bring you here. They're going to invest time in training you. It's not like you're going to come and start producing for them. They're going to have to do a big investment, put time and money into your training. So you have to, or they have to be convinced that you are actually going to enrich their lab and be a producer in their lab and do something which will be productive for them, and at the same time get trained yourself. So that's the research fit, which is very important, right? So we're going to go over these things one by one, but how to email professors, how to review the overall culture in the lab, how you can get help from alumni, how you should prepare documentations like the statement of purpose, the letter of references, your personal statement, what are the challenges in the United States currently, and how you can overcome these. And we're also going to talk a little bit now. I was going to talk about our AI application system, which will actually make this entire process much more simpler. So graduate school applications can be very daunting. These are just some examples that Nazmul sort of scavenged from Reddit, showing, a lot of frustration. So this is a universal, it's not something which is unique to our people, right? This is a universal problem that graduate applications can be very frustrating. And the whole process, like from the application to the process of actually getting into graduate school, and then not having having or basically going through graduate school and graduate school not meeting your expectations of what you thought it would be, right? So we're all kind of trained on Hollywood, and we've seen like, fancy shows in Hollywood, and we have this idea, this romanticized idea of how fantastic life is in Western society or in Western countries. But what you don't realize is that it's pretty much 95% of your life is spent at work or thinking about work or imagining how you could be more productive at work. Very little of your life is actually spent, you know, eating, sleeping, or recreation. So you really don't have time. So you really need to enjoy what you're doing. Um, and there are many reasons because people are people at the end. What your expectations were of the graduate program that you went into versus your professor could be somebody who's horrible. There are many stories like this that could really, turn your entire situation into a nightmare. So which graduate school is for you. So you have to be very clear, or it's difficult to tell people. Like it's easy to tell people to be clear about what your long-term or short-term goals are, but you should think about these things, right? Like you should sit down. Since you guys are like undergrads, you're going to be thinking about doing a master's, but you're sort of at a very delicate point in your life, right? So you want to sit down. Now is the time really when you want to sit down and think, okay, what is my plan for the next 5 years? What is my plan for the next 10 years? And you don't need to sit down and be elaborate about it, but you should put down expectations that you put expectations of yourself that these are the goals that I want to meet academically. And obviously, since you're doing an undergrad in such a competitive field, you know your field better than anybody else. Remember that. So you have to have these expectations or realistic expectations of, okay, I want to do a PhD. And then, why do you want to do a PhD? Do you want to do a PhD because it will help you go into research and academics? Or do you just want to do a PhD because you'll get the name doctor with your name, which is not really the real reason, right? So a good reason to do it. Or do you want to just do a master's so that you can go into industry, and get an industry job? So it really depends on what you are long-term, short-term goals really are, right? So a lot of people, say, okay, we want to go into a master's right now, get a job, make some money, and then, make the decision of going into a PhD program. So it's very important to have this clarity at this stage, or at least make the attempt of thinking about where you want to go. But if you made the decision that yes, you want to come abroad for either a master's program or a PhD program, then, nothing happens quickly. Sometimes it's going to take a long time for you to actually go through the process of approaching professors, having interviews with them, and then them saying, yes, okay, we'd like you to apply. And then it's not like you're going to apply the next month and just be on board. You have to then apply, wait for the next school application cycle. So everything is very similar to the manner how it happens in our countries, right? You can't just get up out of your bed one day and say, okay, now I want to get admission into university. You have to follow the academic cycle, that the US follows over here, especially if you're like targeting a particular professor or an institution that, is doing some sort of research that interests you. So, I mean, competition, if people say that competition is increasing in general, but the reality is competition has always been there. It was competitive for us when we started off graduate school. It's going to be competitive for you. It's going to be competitive for people that come after you. So never be afraid of competition. Enjoy the competition, right? Enjoy the challenge, embrace the challenge, and feel empowered by it. Don't ever shy away from a challenge. Be excited that you have the ability to think about a big problem, and you have the ability with tools that your professors have taught you in Bangladesh to really sit down and address big challenges that are faced by the world, right? And think about how you can go about addressing them and finding solutions to these big problems, because that really is, the purpose of, research and the purpose of doing all of this high training in, your respective fields. So computer sciences, as you know, is something that, about 10 years ago, big hype for a lot of people were focusing on it, about 15 years ago, perhaps, and then it kind of died down. And now, because of the advent of all of this big data, you have massive data sets from either health sciences or, data that's being generated from the material sciences or natural sciences, and now people are sitting down and saying, okay, now how do we use things like pattern recognition software or pattern recognition algorithms to, make sense of all of this, right? So there's a big drive for the development of the next artificial general intelligence, and a lot of work and money is being spent by a lot of these big tech companies to develop these kind of tools that will, allow for the next breakthrough in artificial intelligence and machine intelligence, right? So this is a really good time to be in computer science. And let me tell you, like, people think, okay, I'll be a computer scientist and I'll make algorithms, or I'll improve a pre-existing algorithm and make it more accurate. But, there's so many different things or applications of these tools. Like you can think about, having a biostatistics major where you're looking at large health data sets and, helping clinicians make decisions like, making a tool that will accurately predict, for example, the risk of breast cancer in women based on their clinical data, So there's just so many different things that a computer scientist can really get their fingers into. You just need to actually sit down and think about problems. Think about problems that people face and what utility or how you can go about addressing them. And if you spend this is a very important skill to have, and it doesn't come overnight, but you need to spend time thinking about that. What is the problem? Why is this problem interesting for me? And what do I think, based on the knowledge that I've gathered, are good ways to address this problem? And if you have the ability to do these three things, any professor is going to be impressed and will want to hire you and train you, because this is the way an American graduate really thinks. Okay, so when we talk about challenges, the application process is very complex. So you need to, what I say is, always read the application material, go over it again and again, discuss it with people if you can, look at overall weaknesses in the program, make sure that your entire application is filled. Don't leave any part, because you don't know what part of the application is given more weight to by the graduate school, right? And there's obviously, whenever you're applying to an institution that is providing funding, there's always uncertainty about funding, especially in these times and ages, right? And then we're going to talk about, ethical usage of AI. So if you're just going to use tools like Perplexity or ChatGPT, they're now tools that, can detect, for example, the way text is actually generated by these algorithms. So, for example, spacing between words, or the hyphen or the dash that is placed between words is larger than, the dash that we have in our keyboard. So there are actually tools that allow for the rapid detection of, like, sentences that most likely were generated by an AI tool. So you need to be very careful about this when you're actually using, these open-ended tools that are not generating, human-like text, or like are extremely verbose, meaning using a lot of words to describe something, right? So yeah, everybody's using AI, right, to generate text, to do all kinds of things. But what I say is, whenever you're using AI, be sensible about it. So again, about how you can go about searching for graduate school, look always for, it's difficult for you to judge what a quality program is going to be like, but the way again, the way um, even if for someone who doesn't have access to a mentor, doesn't know how I should judge whether a program is good or not, an easy way is just to go and look at the rankings, not only of the school but also of the department. So you can get two rankings in the United States based on things like the um, USA college ranking system, where you can actually go and look at on a departmental basis, like computer science departments, how they're ranked. And then, the way I look at it is that, you should have a minimum of 5 places to apply to. One place should be your dream. Two places should be like, mid-tier universities. So by mid-tier, I mean somewhere between, 80 to 40 in terms of ranking. And then three universities should be more realistic, where it could be state schools, but, ranked between anywhere between 150 to 80, or 150 to 100, let's say. So, you should have a nice spread, because you don't really know. I mean, everybody wants to get into Berkeley, or Caltech, for example, or MIT, but that's an unrealistic goal unless you have like a stellar GPA, and an amazing GRE score, right? And you've done like crazy things like develop a artificial intelligence algorithm that can, predict melanoma from looking at images of skin or something like that, right? So, and that is not everybody. So the reality is that you need to keep your application, the university that you're applying to realistic, but always keep that one of those universities that is, absolutely right on the top. Remember that it takes it. So all of these universities also they ask for a certain admission fee, and the reason they do this is that they don't want they don't want to be inundated with applications, and they already do get inundated. But what I say is that whenever you look at the graduate application on their websites, they usually will have an email to the either the graduate coordinator or the graduate program director. So what I always tell people to do, especially from like low income countries, quote unquote, we're technically developing slash low income countries, you can send them an email and say that, hey, I really like to apply to your program, send a couple of sentences, but say, like I'm applying from XYZ country, I don't have the resources to apply for your the application fee, but I really do want to apply, and they will waive it. So a lot of universities they will get back to you and say, hey, here's the link. Don't worry about the application fee, just apply. You understand? So the universities also understand this, and a lot of graduate programs, or admission committees understand this, and they really their goal is also to get the best of the best. So if they see that someone is really aligned with what their goals are, they will make their best to make it easier for you to apply, right? But I wouldn't send like randomly to places that just copy paste sentences. Try to make it personal. So there's this program that I really like, and this is aligned with what I want to do. So I'd really appreciate it if you could waive that fee, and a lot of times those fees are actually waived. So remember, there are people at the end of the computer, so reach out to them. So a lot of graduate programs in the United States, especially, I mean, at least PhD programs, you're basically a staff, so you're paid as research. And a lot of master's programs allow for a stipend, so they give you a certain teaching load. And for example, Nimel has this model where he has a certain teaching load, but at the same time, he's getting paid, for doing some component of research plus teaching as well. So, you can get paid as a master's student as well. It's very rare though, and it's difficult to get, but it is possible. All right. So what is next? So, I mean, obviously ask experts, but sometimes everybody doesn't have access to this. But, if you have those resources in your university, it's very nice to sit down with a mentor and say, look, this is what my plan is, what do you think about it? Always get feedback from people if that is something that you are have the ability to do so. So, don't randomly look for professors and don't spam people. They hate this and they know about this and they literally like don't even open those emails. And I mean, they open those emails, but they don't, after the first sentences, they delete them, right? So the thing is that they get so many emails, US professors, is that you want to catch them in about a couple of lines. You don't want to send them a whole paragraph or a whole page describing what you've done over, what school you went to, whatever. They don't care. So in like 3 lines or so, because if they want to read in detail, they can read your CV, which you've attached in that email, right? So in about 3 lines, give very concisely, you know, introduce yourself, um, talk about what your interests are, and what you're working on, and or what your education is in, and what you focused on in computer science, and link it to the current research inside that lab. And say, this is something that I'm really interested in studying. Is it possible that we could have a a conversation over Zoom for a potential position at your lab? Something like this, very succinct, very small. it's make it easier for them to sit and at least read your email and say, okay, this guy actually or this girl actually went and took the effort to, sort of link what they're doing, what they want to do with what I'm doing. And, there's a higher probability that they will respond. So it actually becomes easier, right? Because we tend to send these huge, long stories. None of them read them. Like no professor actually has the time to sit down and read your thesis. They will only read a couple of lines, and make a decision whether they want to get back to you or not. Um, it's it's good to write a research proposal initially, but in order for you to just get, um, sometimes it's good to just send the CV and a couple of lines linking, what you're interested in and how, what the lab is doing is of interest. Okay, again, you're thinking about what is your utility? What do you bring to the table? Why should I hire you? Why should I invest my time and money in you? You have to think like a salesperson. Sell yourself, market yourself, right? It's very important skills to have. Like, why should I hire you and not XYZ person, from India, for example, who has way more skills and, is willing to work for me for half, the amount that I have money and, effort that I have to pay you or work on you. So, make yourself attractive. And remember, it all comes into the 3 sentences or 4 sentences. So literally a small little paragraph, right? And if they respond to you, don't make the mistake of not replying. They're not like us where, we can send an email and then, like people are in our part of the world where you send an email to them and then they don't reply for like, I don't know, a week and then they get back to you. No, they don't like that, right? So if they actually make the effort to respond to you, you want to respond to them within 24 hours. That's the general rule, right? And if you don't do that, then that can be interpreted on their part as laziness on your part, right? So even though you wrote a really nice email, you got the interest of the professor, they reached out to you, you didn't reply to their email, they're like, this person is not serious. You know what I mean? So be careful, always scour your emails for, especially, when you're sending emails to people. Look at the overall culture of, the institution that you're applying to, and it's difficult to do. Look at what is the frequency of publications that, that research lab is doing. Uh, okay. You want to look at always like what is the overall publication frequency, what is the culture of research in the lab that you're applying to. And this is important because, if you're coming from Bangladesh, you want to work hard. You want to build your profile. You want to be better than the best, right? So you need to, publish research. You want to go to a lab that is productive. So the word productive over here, what it means is that a lab that is actively publishing papers. So what that means is that that research scientist, so that principal investigator or the professor is very inclined towards doing research and actually publishing it, and that benefits us because in academia, research articles are currency. So whatever you're doing, even if you're putting it in something like archive, you've made a computer model and you've put it in archive, or it's in review in IEEE, for example, in some IEEE journal. Um, that's fine. But even if you put it in archive, that's good. You can actually put that in your CV. You can show that this is my overall output. So you want to look at, what is the output of each of these labs. So this is also part of your research, when you're doing to decide which university you want to go to. Each university has its own admission process, right? So some of them they expect like the expectations generally that universities have, what is your research experience? What is your GPA? Have you completed standardized score? Some universities don't want them these days, but a majority of them like your GRE. And even if there's a university that doesn't expect a GRE, generally, if you provide them your GRE, you're going to be better than the person doesn't have a GRE score, right? So as a computer science, you want to have a really high quant score of the journey. I don't know how much you guys know about this, but there are two. There's quantitative, qualitative, and then there's the writing component, right? So that's about 6 marks. and then it's about 170 each for the quant and quantitative, right? So the quantitative is basically the mathematical component, and engineering students score really high in that, right? So you want to really ace that, and it's not really difficult because you guys have taken higher calculus courses anyway. So it should be a breeze for you because it's all like high school level mathematics. Um, and then depending on like if you're like I know you guys are all CS majors, but for example, if you're applying to business school, then you want to give the GMAT. If you're going to like law school, then it's the LSAT, etc. Or medical school, it's the MCAT, right? For English proficiency, then you have to give TOEFL. But TOEFL, I would focus on if you've given the GR, the first test, in my opinion, that you should focus on really is the GRE. Because if you get a good GRE score and if you work hard for your GRE and you get a good GRE score, that shows graduate aptitude, right? Your TOEFL is more like a language aptitude test, but it's only a language aptitude test. The GRE tells the school two things: that you're good, your English is good or appropriate, number one, and number two, your quantitative or mathematical skills are good, which is sort of like a preliminary test to tell that you're a smart student, applying for their, computer science program. And spend time on your statement of purpose and your letters of recommendation. I know that letters of recommendation are a big hassle, right, in our part of the world, because you have a lot of graduate programs expect that people would send letters of recommendation from like your professor should email them the letter of recommendation directly. So what I say is draft it yourself. Draft it yourself. Approach a professor that, hey, can you please send my letter of recommendation? Draft a letter of recommendation yourself and give it to them. And I know this is awkward, how are you going to sit and write good things about yourself? But it's if you do it, the time that it takes for a professor to edit that and send it is much less than them having to do the work of spending like maybe 1 or 2 hours typing something out for you. So make life easier for people, and you'll get what you want out of that, right? So write a draft, give it to them, tell them please edit it, and then like keep following up with them, to make sure that they don't miss your deadline. Unfortunately, there's no other best way around this, but this is something that you have to do. Focus on what your previous work experience is, and remember, think of everything like a node, like like in terms of like and or gates, think of it like an electrical node, that all of these things connect to how and why somebody should hire you, right? So your previous work experience in your resume, when you're applying to a particular professor, try to tie in what your previous experience and how it kind of like shows or demonstrates that you are the person for the job. How certain experience that you got in your previous either research, you did some research or took some classes in school, or you worked for some company and you worked on some model or something with a professor, and how you got some skills, or you worked in a project that made you learn some skills that would be helpful um, for that lab that you're applying to. And again, you need to sell yourself, you need to show your utility, and it's all about how you phrase your story, because nobody knows everything. None of us know everything. None of us are masters of everything. But what we've learned over time is, how to sit down and identify what is it that people want or expect from us, and then how we can come up and show up and say, okay, we will meet these expectations, and we will focus on them, and we will, deliver. So that's the thing that you need to focus on the most. And of course, that's how you need to shape your CV. I haven't talked about extracurricular activities that much, but curricular activities relating to research or whatever you want to again focus on how that links to what the goals are of that program. For all of the standardized test preparation, like, if it's not a bad idea to spend money to go to a good GRE, training center and get, good training from someone, or, an institution that, you know, has trained people on the GRE and they've gotten good top scores. Because, if you get a good score of like, let's say 310 above, I mean, a graduate program will consider you carefully before saying no to you. Let me say this, right? So for PhD program at least. So, focus a lot on your GRE program. I mean, on your GRE before giving it, you can these days, um, do tests, like do mock tests online for free. Like, you can find mock tests not only on the book, but you can, just find mock tests online. You can go and, give them and prepare for them. And honestly, it's like any other standardized test. Like you guys are given more tougher tests, honestly, than the quantitative component of the GRE. It's just that it's different than what you're used to, right? So it just needs preparation. So spend time. Like you guys are spending so much time in your courses anyway in undergrad. Start, the way I've seen what people do is like, in competitive schools, at least in Pakistan, what they do is that in their second year of their bachelor, let's say their, BScs program is for 4 years. I don't know how much it is in Bangladesh. Correct me if it's less than that, but in Pakistan, at least it's 4 years. So in their second year, or like when they're just going into the third year, so they still have about 2 years minimum left for their program, they start preparing for the GRE. So by the time they're in their last year, they've already given it. And if they want to repeat it, then they're repeating it. So the way that they prime it is that by the time they're graduating, they've already started the application process, right? So this is what happens in the university that I graduated from, which is NUST, which is like the MIT of Pakistan, essentially. So all those students, they pretty much like, 50% to 60% of them go abroad, basically for like masters or PhDs, right? So they're very prime and organized in how they approach this, and they understand that scores matter. So the GRE is something that you need to, unfortunately, it's a universal currency at this stage, and it's a good investment. But don't waste money. Do the preparation. If you can go to a coaching center, which will give you an edge and teach you all those skills and allow you to train, practice, do that. It's a good investment, right? And schedule the exam, way before you intend to begin, attending graduate school at least a year in advance, because you're going to have to send the scores out. And if you're applying to an institution with score, it's going to definitely give you an edge. Statement of purpose. Again, what are your overall goals from the graduate program? How have you prepared for it academically? What experience you have? So again, this is very nice the way Nazmul has actually designed this, because it again kind of like speaks to that concept, or the conceptual way of thinking about how you can tie in on a personal level what your experience is, how your experience has driven what your interests are, and how your interests are aligned with what that professor is interested in pursuing. You understand? So you're kind of bring everything together, because when somebody reads that, they're like, wow, it seems like this person studied this, is interested in this because this is what they studied and they found this interesting and fascinating. And this is something or field of study that I'm working on. So in their mind, they're going to be like, okay, this person is motivated to work on the field that I'm working on. So it's going to be way easier for me to teach them, or to make them learn this, rather than me actually teaching someone who is probably focusing on something else, or doesn't know anything about my field, and is not really super interested about it. So if can put in the effort to not be an expert, but be reasonably understand a little bit what the focus is of a lab, and try to tailor your application for each lab that you're applying to. Tailor your application to try and show or demonstrate, how your previous experience, skills, and current like academic program is in line with what they're working on. It's a done deal. Like they will definitely consider your application before saying no to you, right? Okay, and remember, the most important word on this slide is to be positive. You will get sometimes, maybe 100 rejections before that one acceptance will come out. There are stories of people over here, like, when they're applying for jobs, like colleagues of mine, they applied to 6 places. The one place told them that, okay, come for the interview, and that's the place that hired them. So you don't know. The key is persistence and never giving up. If you live your life with this mantra that you're never going to give up and you're not going to accept failure ever under any circumstance, and look at every opportunity as a learning opportunity, that you learned a certain way of how to do something better, the next place you apply, you will, focus on improving and being better in your application. And that's what it means to improve yourself, right? So I'm always thinking about how I can improve myself in terms of my overall academic goals. And, this is something that should be of primary focus for you as well. We already talked about letters of recommendation. This is a big challenge, right? So as I said, the biggest way to overcome this is really to make a draft. Some people will get annoyed by this. I mean, I understand, the way people are in our part of the world, right? So ask them, would it be helpful if I make a draft for you, right? And if they say, yeah, that would be helpful, so then do it. Just make that draft and provide it to them. It'll be like, it'll be super simple. And what I did actually is I never asked, to be honest. I just made the draft and I said, hey, could you edit this draft, please, and like send it on this date? So I found that this philosophy, even if the professor said, you made a draft and you wrote a lot of nice things about yourself. So I said, you can edit them if you don't think they're true. So nobody ever removed any of that stuff. In fact, they added to it, right? So the reality is it make make people's life simple. Everybody's a human being at the end of the day, no matter how big shot of a professor they may be or how good they may be, right? They're doing a lot of things. They're grading people's papers. They have their own families. Then, they have their own stress of work. Then they, have that 100 things on their plate. So this is something that they're not getting paid for to write your letter of recommendation, right? So if you make their life easier, then your life will be easier. But if you just sit at home and think, they got to do this for me, trust me, that's not like how life is, right? So you got to do the work if you want the fruit. So the most important thing that you need to always remember is completeness. The thing about at least American graduate schools is that they like these small things, they take this into account a lot. Like this bothers them a lot. Like if you have to complete step one, two, three, and four, for a complete graduate application, you need to complete steps one, two, three, and four. You can't do steps one, two, and sorry, one, two, and three, and forget about step four. Your application may go through, you're not going to get in, right? Because they're going to look at this as sloppiness. Like this person didn't take the effort or didn't take the time to actually go through the entire application, answer all the questions to the best of their ability. And I'm not saying that that's always going to work 100%. You know, most of the time it's not going to work. That's the reality. Let me tell you, most of your applications are probably just going to be thrown in the trash. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is the reality of what happens. When we applied, also the same thing happened with us, right? But the reality is that we tried our best to give complete applications where everything that they're asked for, we put in maximum effort onto it, right? Or our best effort, right? And we made sure all the documents were complete when we were submitting it. This is very important. Like replying to emails on time when people communicate with you and submitting complete documents. These are criteria for the identification of people that are serious. Because remember, there are a lot of people that are applying, right? So it's very easy for them to use these arbitrary criteria to eliminate people and say, you could be a fantastic student. Okay, brilliant. But if you're not showing that you're, focused enough or you're careful enough in your application, that automatically eliminates you because, that shows that you're just sloppy. So that's super important. Prepare a lot for your interview. What I did was I actually sat down with my friends and, I said, okay, I'm going to, let's have a mock interview session, or like I looked a lot at like YouTube videos of, people that did mock interview sessions. And, sometimes it's not even your field, but it gives you a good sense. You know, prepare in whatever manner makes sense to you. It doesn't need to be, there is no clear-cut way of getting the knowledge or being good enough to apply to graduate school anywhere on the planet, be it within Bangladesh or outside Bangladesh. Let me tell you, that's the truth. But what you need to do is that if you prepare and if you plan and if you practice, you're going to be better than the other colleague of yours, right? Who has no practice and who's just sitting there blanking out on questions sometimes or is not anticipating, how things could be asked and, how I should think about responding or, if I don't know something, how I should respond or how I should, shift the conversation to something else. So practice with your friends, practice with friends who also want to apply. It's always a good thing. This is what I did with a friend of mine. We both got into grad school, but we would sit, I remember, and do these mock sessions where we would like one would act as the professor. And it's easy to act as a professor because you can just pretend to be a jerk, right? And ask, just make your life miserable. Oh, what about this? Or what about that? And then it's the job of the other person to respond and not lose your cool. And, at the end of the day, when they're doing your interview, remember, it's not going to be like they're going to grill you about subject matter. They want to know what kind of a person you are, right? They want to know whether you are easy to work with, whether you can communicate well. A lot of people over here think that we don't speak English, for example. So they want to know that, you're going to be able to communicate with and work with easily. And if they get that impression from Zoom, you've checked the box. So this is the overall like timeline. Again, like like anywhere in the world, like Bangladesh, the United States also follows a very strict timeline. So you want to start roundabout in the summer when you start your research. June is when you want to sign up for, your GRE prep courses. July is when you want to reach out to schools. And remember, it's there, the schools or graduate schools over here, their admissions, their admissions pages usually has the School of Admissions, this graduate school admissions office, and they have an email over there. Don't feel bad to email those people and ask some questions about, what are the requirements over here? Do you guys offer a waiver? Do you have direct admissions? If you have questions, no matter how silly they are, try to keep them short and ask them these questions. They will reply to you. And for the longest time, like when people would send emails, they would send the entire prospectus, like email it, not only email it, but actually mail the physical prospectus to anywhere in the world. So that's what their job is. They literally get paid to recruit students, right? So it's their job to respond to you, and they will. So if you have a legitimate question about, the application process, reach out to them. Ask them, when is your application cycle? How many students do you take? What is the, how many international students are you taking? And they will make their best to answer your questions. So you want to start working on getting your official transcripts as early as possible because, sometimes it can take time, the paperwork for getting those transcripts and all. I don't know how it is, but for our university, it's a long process, at least when I was in Pakistan, right? So you want to start working on these things in advance so that, you have all the materials so that you can send it to these universities when if they ask for it. And, the most important thing really is especially to be competitive for a computer sciences program in the United States, at least, you want to give a GRE. I'll say this to you up front. Different people have a different opinion about this, to be honest, because there are some schools that don't require a GRE and they'll say give the TOEFL first. The TOEFL is only an English test, right? And some universities have this requirement, like, let's say you give the GRE, you talk to a professor, they say, okay, you got into the program, and then they're like, okay, you need to pass the TOEFL before we can officially accept you. Sure. Then go and give the TOEFL. You understand? But the TOEFL is only an English, skill test. It's not a it's not testing your academic ability, like how smart you are. That's the quantitative component of the GRE. So the GRE is a two-edged sword. It's telling people that you are mathematically intelligent enough to quickly solve math problems. And number two, you're also good enough to kind of understand text, which is what the qualitative component of the GRE is. So when a school sees a good GRE score, they already are putting you in a high category, and they're realizing that, even if you sort of don't score well later on in your TOEFL, they're like, no, don't worry about it. His GRE or her GRE score was good. So putting in the effort, if you are serious about coming to the United States at least, or to Canada, getting a good GRE score is really something that you should focus on, right? And don't waste money on a GRE score by just GRE by just going and giving it. You need to spend time preparing for it, right? So, and let me tell you, in my experience, most people from engineering departments, they score phenomenally on the quantitative components, right? So it's not impossible. It is something that is very doable. And of course, come December or November, that's when you start putting everything together and applying. But different schools have different like cycles. So you want to at least initially right now start making an Excel sheet of all these places that you would potentially want to apply to. And then, making notes on those Excel sheets about, what the timelines are, what their boundaries are, hard cutoffs are for applications so that you know that you can plan 1 year in advance, and apply there. And that's about it. I think Namal is going to now give an overview of this wonderful tool that we've made to make your life much more easier in the application process. But um, I'm going to hand it over to him now. Let me start the sharing. I think we'll take questions
All
after
right.
your component.
Can you see my screen? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
yes,
Yes, I
All
can
right.
I can see your screen and hear you.
Yes, we
Sorry.
can see your
I was
screen.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Fahad, for these incredible insights and for walking us through what it truly takes to succeed abroad. Um, Before we move to our QA session, I'd like to share a quick overview of a platform that can help students navigate the entire process more efficiently and effectively, which is called Gradmate.ai. But before I go into talking about the Gradmate, I should just add to what Dr. Fahad was talking about GRE. So I think a lot of students, especially from countries like from our country like Bangladesh and Pakistan, they fear GRE. I think there is a good news for them. A lot of, programs in computer science right now, they're waiving GRE, and the application is holistic. So which means that GRE is important in order to judge a person from this part of the world. But if you don't have GRE, you can improve your profile in other ways. Like for example, if you have publication or research experience, that will help you. So if you think that you have to give GRE to get a PhD or master's in US. It's not exactly right. Uh, so yeah, even if you don't have GRE, you can still apply for PhD or masters in a lot of universities in US. So let me uh, get into this Gradmate.ai. So it's a platform for prospective graduate student to brush up or uh, to complete their application process. So if I can pull the website here, so the website looks like this. It have bunch of features for international students, also the domestic students as well. So for example, there is graduate service. So there is something called GradGPT. You can ask any question about funding or graduate application. You can write your statement of purpose. You can write letter of recommendation for your professor. Like when you go to your professor, they will say that write a draft for your letter of recommendation. You can use this tool to write that recommendation letter on behalf of your professor. You can write email to professor using this feature, email writing, and you can practice interview. You can shortlist university. So there's a lot of feature you can use to make your application much more easier. But the one of the feature or the cool free feature that I want to talk about is the faculty search. So Dr. Fahad, he already explained that how you should email a professor, but one of the most one of the problem in graduate application is to finding out these faculties or professor. So we have this feature which is called the faculty search, and and this feature is especially designed for computer science students. So for example, let's say you want to do a PhD or master's in let's say Canada. So you can choose North America, then you can choose Canada, then you can choose a bunch of university from that country, like let's say Montreal. And after you choose your university, this tool will show you a bunch of faculties that you can email. So you can look at their profile, or you can look at their Google Scholar to know what kind of research they're doing right now. And before doing that, before looking into their profile, one of the cool feature you can use is to filter out the professor. So let's say you just wanna work on, or you just wanna look for faculty who only work in cybersecurity, let's say, or maybe computer vision. You can choose computer vision. Let's say you're also interested in brain computing, maybe AI. And if you press apply filter, now you'll only see the faculties that you're interested field you chose. So for example, this faculty is doing research in machine learning and AI. Maybe you're interested in something different. For example, maybe in computer privacy. You can look at his profile. You can go through the faculty's website. You can see if they have an open position. Usually they put open position. If they have any open position, they put it in their website. Once you go through the profile, once you look at their researches, and you think that this is the professor you want to work under, you can use our other feature that I mentioned, which is the email. You can come here, you can write a really, concise email that is based on your CV and also your experience. So more you use this tool this Gradmate AI, that the more the AI will know about you or what type of research you're doing, and more it will be able to write specific to your need. So this is a really cool tool. Let me get back here as well to explain the other tools as well. So Dr. Fahd, he also talked about how you should shortlist your university. So we also have this tool which is called University Shortlisting. You can use it to shortlist your university. And also this tool will remind you whether you're reaching your deadline or not. And let me explain some of the feature that I talked about in more detail. So I talked about this Grad GPT feature, where you can ask any question. For example, I asked, how to manage faculties, to provide fund, and how to find full rider scholarship. So if you ask the same question to ChatGPT, it will give you like 3 pages of answer. And in most of the cases, it's not going to be for international students. And here you can see that it gave us a concise answer specific to your need. This is the faculty search feature that I talked about. And let's say I picked this faculty, and I looked through his website, and I saw that he mentioned that he's hiring student. So this is what the faculties do. If they have a position, if they have a position in their lab, they will mention that in their website. So for example, this professor, he mentioned that he's looking for PhD students and also visitor or interns. So if you look through his profile and if you like it, then you can write an email to this professor. So this is the email generator tool. So many of you'll think that if you write an email with AI, your email, the professor won't like it or they won't reply to it. But contrary to this, in my experience, what I've seen is even if you write your email with AI, usually the faculties, they don't care, because if whatever you wrote, if that matches with your CV or your transcript, then they don't have any problem, because your CV is the ultimate proof that whatever you mentioned, it's true. So even if you write an email with AI, that's not going to be a problem. But there's going to be a problem if you just write the draft using AI and then just send it without reviewing. You should generate the email and then you should review it by yourself, because a lot of time the AI will hallucinate. So this is the one of the feature. So another feature I would like to show you, from the website. So another feature is assistantship. So one of the way to get into a PhD or master is to email professor and ask, whether they have any position opening or not. And another way to do is, there's many faculty or incoming faculty who are new. What they usually do is they post an assistantship. If they have a position open, they will post it in LinkedIn or in Facebook. So what we have done is we curated all those assistantships and we put it in this feature, which is called graduate assistantship. So let's say you want to do a PhD in computer science, you can just type computer science, and you'll see that there is a bunch of PhD opening in these universities. So this is one. They are recruiting PhD candidates in AI and for software engineering at the University of Oklahoma. You can look at the details, and based on that, you can send email to apply for this position. So this is one of the features that will really help you, especially right now, because this is the right time to email these professors, because they have this opening for fall 26, and they are right now. This is the time they're replying to students. So I think you shouldn't waste time. You should start emailing professor. You should go through these assistantships. You can go through the professor's profile using this feature, and also you can look at different programs. Like in our database, we have thousands of programs, masters or PhD, like 30,000 of programs. So you can filter all these programs based on your need, and you can apply there. And also, for one of the requirement for higher studies, we all know is English proficiency, and the one of the tests we like to give is IELTS. We have this feature where you can practice IELTS. You know that in Bangladesh in 2026, I heard that it's gonna be computer based, because in UK and I think in Australia they will stop accepting paper based IELTS from Bangladesh. So I think the most of you, if you're interested in going abroad, it would be better for you to appear a computer based IELTS. So here we have this feature for you to practice IELTS. For example, let's say you want to practice English speaking. You can use this mock test to practice with an AI. So this AI will actually question you, same as how an examiner will ask you during your actual test, and it will also give you an evaluation based on your replies. So this is one of the cool feature we have. So like you already knew that the application takes time, but if you don't have time, if you want to apply really efficiently, this is one of the cool platform you can
I
use.
think Naimul, you're breaking like an on and off, right? Is it like, from my side only, or Naimul is actually
No, I think it's fine. It's only on
huh?
your side.
Oh,
Yeah,
All
I
I think
think
right.
it's
it's
from
only
my
his side.
side.
Yeah.
I think it's from my. Sorry, continue,
All right.
Naimul.
I also talked about this interview feature. It's similar to IELTS spoken feature that I showed you. You can speak to let's say someone already told you, you can work with me. And if they offer you a PhD, usually you have to give an interview to them. So you know that which professor you're going to give interview to. You can put their link here. You can put the name, and there will be an AI who will be pretending to be your professor and ask similar question related to his research, and you can practice interviewing with this bot for your main preparation, for your main interview. And I also talked about this feature to write your statement of purpose. You can write the whole statement of purpose using AI. You can review your statement of purpose using AI, or maybe some of you already written your statement of purpose and you want to review it by human. We also have an option for that. So, I think we are at the end of our webinar. But before we end it, we want to take questions from the students. I highly encourage you to ask as many questions as you can. And I think if you ask a really good question, I might give you some promo codes to our Gradmate.ai, or maybe I can give you some free. I mean, you can use it for free if your questions is really good. So go ahead, ask if you have any question.
Can you guys hear me, or my internet is just bad?
No, we can hear you.
You can
I
hear
think
me,
we heard what you just said. Yes.
but the problem is like, I cannot hear you guys well. I think like something is
All
wrong.
right. So we
I'm
have a question in chat. So you guys can actually like raise a hand and like come on
Yeah.
voice also. But if you're comfortable, like you can text in chat. So ask as many questions as you can. The whole purpose of doing this is to really, rather than us giving this presentation, is to interact with you and provide you guys with the opportunity to interact, right? And ask us questions. So Rifat Hussain in chat is saying, what are the key indicators of a strong research profile? So a lot of things go into this. Sorry, guys, I'm taking this question. Is that okay? I'm more
Yeah, yeah.
Nazmul.
Go ahead, please.
All right. So what a strong research profile is a very broad, like